Always loving my intro music. I can't help but bob my head. I am Sarah Weiss of Passion and Pickleball. Welcome to the Spanglish World Networks on Zingo TV, channels 249, 250, and 251. You can download the Zingo TV app on iOS and Android app stores. Don't forget to rate and leave a comment. This app is free and is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and also Smart TVs 2016 and on. Welcome to another episode where I always bring on someone awesome and interesting for you to learn a little bit about, maybe even yourself, but also pickleball and passion. Today's guest is really cool, super likable guy that I got to meet through pickleball. Not necessarily a pickleball player, but someone who is very passionate about what he does. And I'm very excited to bring his story to light, let you guys get to know him a little bit. Before I introduce him, I just want to say, be true to yourself. You know, I have gone through quite the up and down roller coaster since getting involved in pickleball. And something that it did to me was pull out a lot of my hidden truths, we'll say. I started to live a life where I kind of left my past behind, which there's obviously nothing wrong with that. But there's a lot of beautiful magic in our history that we can learn from ourselves. But not only that, give lessons to others. And one thing that this experience has done for me is it kind of made me go, you know what, maybe it's time to talk about this so that hopefully someone listening might take a lesson or two. Maybe someone gets to open their eyes and expand their perspective and learn something that could really, truly positively impact their life. As uncomfortable as it has been for me to get to that point, and as uncomfortable as it could be for someone else maybe watching going, you know, I hide some of my past because I'm ashamed of it, or because I'm embarrassed of it, or because I just don't want to face it. Well, you could have an opportunity to change someone's life and leave an impact that could last a lifetime. So my encouragement today is to be true to who you are, not be afraid of your past, and be open to sharing a little bit about it, because sometimes it introduces you to some pretty amazing people, like the person I have on today, AJ Randall. Welcome to the show, AJ. How are you?
Hi, that's great. Wow, what an amazing. I didn't know you did a monologue. That was a very inspiring monologue, and I could not agree more with all of it. I was just, as you were talking, I was thinking about how, like, when you met me was a really transitional moment in my life. And the more I've just gotten like more and more like truer and like shed more of the things I was doing that I just didn't want to really be doing. And my life has just gotten like better every single time. Like, even if it gets harder to get through it, like, even if it's like I'm making a hard choice and I'm like, oh, I'm really not excited about this. Like what's going to come down the line after that. This is going to cost me more money. This is cost me, like, I have just been happier in the end. Anyway, so yeah, awesome. I'm doing great.
Thank you. You know, it's funny. Right before the episode started, I was scrambling to get everything ready. My computer wasn't working. I was like, oh my God. I'm like, I don't even know what I'm going to say at the start of my episode, because I usually have this opening. And I'm like, right before we start, I'm like, okay, what am I going to say? I don't know. And just open my mouth. I just opened my mouth. And yeah, that's what came out. So straight from the heart. And I kind of encourage everyone to act that way. I mean, when I spoke to you, you're like, you know, what are we going to talk about? And we're like, on the cuff, be raw, straight from the heart. I say that especially to you because you're very real. You're very raw. Everyone's going to love you. Guys, AJ Randall, actually, why don't you tell everyone how we met?
So we met, oddly enough. So my parents play pickleball. So let's talk about pickleball. Let's go back to your audience, right?
Yay,
Your audience loves pickleball. Let's
pickleball!
talk about pickleball for a little bit. I played sports all my life. I love sports. I was a 4-sport athlete. Like, I did soccer, I did track, I did football. I did everything I could. I was a state champion in track. I was a state champion in soccer. Yeah. So pickleball is great. I never did a lot of racket sports, but my parents have always been like softball and baseball players. And I made fun of them because I always told them that those sports aren't real sports, because, you know, you're not really running, you're kind of just standing on base. You crack it once and then you like sprint around okay, whatever, mom, dad, but they loved it. So as they grew older, though, they've moved into pickleball, and like it became an obsession for them. Like I can't believe like how quickly their lives transformed from softball, this obsession with softball, to like everything was pickleball. And then my grandparents are doing it too. Anyway, so one day I've been making YouTube videos for about 7 years, and my YouTube channel, if you go watch it, it's nominally about motorcycles, but it's not. There's a lot of motorcycle content out there. I'm not like those people, because I don't watch motorcycle content. Yeah, I'm not super mechanical. Like, honestly, I enjoy riding motorcycle. Again, in the same way I'm an athlete, I enjoy the aspect of riding the motorcycle, the physicality of it. the experience, the thrill. I'm a bit of an adrenaline junkie. I've always been. And so my channel is more about teaching people, kind of just getting in, showing people why cars aren't really that fun or interesting. Like I knew a lot of people who were into sports cars and all of that. And I was like, wow, that's cool that you spent 40 grand on that, on that car and all the engine and everything. My bike is worth like 7 grand and I can beat you in any street race. Like that just seemed very efficient to me. Like that seemed better. That's just kind of my value system. But so I built this motorcycle YouTube channel. And because it's a little different, because I've kind of got this brand for being a little less toxically masculine. That's kind of one of the things I don't like about the motorcycle community as a whole, is that it's very male oriented, which is fine. I mean, so is every other sport I've been in. But like when you only get men, it kind of becomes it becomes resistant to people who aren't kind of stereotypically masculine, and I fit that in all the ways, right? I can go through that no problem. Nobody looks at me and says, wow, that guy is not a man.
No, I was gonna say, when I first met you, I was like, this is a dude's dude, very dudely.
Yeah, I'm into sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I'm into all the things, like all the food groups. I do very dangerous things. I do not feel fear and risk. Like anyway, I do stunts. I get hurt. I'm a great athlete. Again, I'm one of the better people on my soccer team. So anyway, but without that, but without the homophobia, without the casual misogyny that is just everywhere in the motorcycle community. I just really didn't like that, because a lot of the people that I wanted to get into motorcycles didn't want to be around that. And so if I wanted, I couldn't, like, they would not exist in the places that I felt like I could be okay existing. So I wanted to start creating that. And that eventually led me to meeting a trans person who actually transitioned kind of in front of me. And that was a really eye-opening experience, because I had just never met anybody before. I did not understand the complexity, because it's just so different from my lived experience. And then when I made a video about that, which was a very raw moment, as I live in America, so our country, I kind of looked at it and I was like, wow, people are really picking on trans people a lot for some reason. That's really frustrating me. And so I decided that I was going to take a stand in that. And that was another really like long video that took me a lot of time to think about. And I was really afraid of coming out, just dropping into my motorcycle YouTube channel a video entirely about like being really afraid of trans people and thinking they were icky and scary, into like, oh, these are just human beings like everyone else. Like, and so they handed me you and were like, look at this thing that's happening to this woman we really like. Like, they didn't know you were trans either. Like the whole reality of your life was just so perfect to bringing them to that shocking moment of like, we love this person. This person's such a positive influence in our community. These people are making her feel bad. Why? And then, kind of that whole, like, now they're grappling with an issue that they have never really even thought about before. And they handed me to you. And I'm so glad that they did, because I was able to make that video about it.
Oh my gosh, I'm so grateful. Seriously. I saw the video, the first video that you made when they messaged me. So this is your parents who messaged me, who play pickleball, and I knew them just kind of through Facebook. And I know a lot of people through Facebook in the pickleball community. It's a big little community. And they said, you should take a look at this video. And I watched the video, and it was about how you went kind of into an allyship because of this person you watched transition, and what you've noticed in the community, the kind of abuses that happen there, and how you want to shift that narrative, and how you kind of want to save the world. I think the end of the video, you said, do you want to save the world with me? It was super cool. I loved the vibe. I loved that you were, opening your own eyes. And something that I love about that video, and you in general, is that you are open to taking information that doesn't currently match your belief system and going, wait a second, maybe this can change my belief system. Maybe this can kind of open my eyes to seeing the world a little differently. That's like my whole jam. So when I saw that that's what you do, I'm like, me and you got to do something. We've got to do something to kind of team up and save the world together. And the video that you created, and like he was saying about how long it took him to make that original one, he put the same time, energy, and effort into making a video kind of surrounding me, where I kind of collaborated with him. He interviewed me, took some of my video clips. And if you haven't seen this video yet, I mean, it's got tons of views. The comment thread is almost 5,000 comments long. And it ranges from all the things, all the things, love and support, hate and toxicity. But it's really interesting to see the variation on the views people have about not just trans athletes, but transgender people in general. And AJ did a really great job of kind of humanizing me, which is nice because I'm not a monster unless you make me a monster.
No.
For the most part, I'm really nice.
Extremely nice. Extremely
Yes,
nice. You
I'm
are
very
like
nice.
you are an incredibly kind person, like behind the scenes. So anyway, yeah,
Thank
just
you.
for the
As are you. You
yeah.
know, when you see his channel, it is very motorcycle centered. But there's also some videos that touch on other things outside of motorcycles, but he also marries it very, very well. He's done a lot of really cool videos, not only about motorcycles, but about, you know, his story as well. I think one of the very first videos that really blew him into the scene in YouTube involved a cop pulling a gun. Maybe you want to
Yep.
talk a little bit about that so people kind of
Yeah.
know what got you started on going, you know what, I gotta do something for people.
Yeah. So I started I was always a theater kid. So like I was going to make a YouTube channel at some point. I love attention. It's phenomenal. I love being in the spotlight. Like YouTube is for me. But yeah, a surprising thing happened to me while I was just driving to work one day yeah, it caused a lot more. Basically, I was driving and I was speeding like I do normally. I'm not really afraid to say that. I don't know if you drive American roads or have seen American roads. People speed everywhere all the time. People are breaking traffic laws all the time. It's not a big deal. So I'm speeding like I am always, and I stop at a stoplight, just sitting there. And then as I'm sitting there, I look into the car in front of me, and it's making like there's lights or something. And as soon as I turn around it, just to look and see what's there, there's a man with a gun in my face, like feet away from my face. And I have headphones in, my motorcycle's running, it's really loud, I can't hear anything. And my first thought is hands up, don't shoot. Like, I just don't want to get shot. If this guy's mugging me, cool, take my wallet, I don't care. Like, you're gonna take you're jacking me on the bike, I don't know, take the bike, it doesn't matter, I'm not gonna, it's what insurance is for or whatever. But it turned out he was a detective, and he held the gun on me for about 90 seconds, yelling at me. I kept yelling, I kept telling him, hey, I can't hear you. Hello, what are you doing? Who are you? And he eventually actually went into my pocket, grabbed my wallet, and then he put his gun down, and I was able to proceed from there. But fast forward, I went back, I finished that. He didn't write me a ticket or anything. And again, any of your viewers, just go watch it. Google police, motorcycle, Washington, gun. You'll find it. You'll find it. No problem. It's like the biggest video to come out of Seattle in a long time. But I found out that he was just a detective driving across the county to get his body armor, and he just felt like doing that. So anyway, he broke a bunch of rules, and it turned out that my sheriff's department, when I filed the complaint, they basically said that he didn't do anything wrong because they didn't consider pointing a gun at somebody to be a use of force. Even though if I were to draw a gun on one of them, they would actually require that cop to like go to a psychological evaluation because they can consider it such a critical stress incident. So I sue them because of that. I'm very fortunate that a lawyer reached out to me. I went public with it. That was basically all I had. I went to lawyers prior, and I had lawyers basically tell me, hey, what that guy did to you was really, really messed up. But because he didn't shoot you, you don't have a case. Like you have no damages to prove. So you should just embarrass them. And that's exactly what I did. And yeah, I found out it basically became an 18-month process where at the end of it, though, I sued them and they had no defense. So they decided to settle with me. But I said I would only settle with them if they changed that policy. And so now if you go into the King County Sheriff's Department and go, look, so, guess what? Pointing a gun at somebody actually does count as force. And there's a whole bunch of rules around that concept now so that at least, you know, the next cop has a little bit of a thought process before they go just drawing a gun on somebody. But yeah, they also gave me 40 grand, bought a brand new motorcycle without a faster version of the exact motorcycle I had. Yeah, I'm very into the poetic nature of it. I mean, I leaned very hard into embarrassing the King County Sheriff's Department because they dragged my name through the mud. They lied about me. They just made things up. And at the end of the day, that detective got a 1-day suspension. It was negotiated down to 1 day for what he did to me. And the sheriff didn't, I mean, she just literally ignored everything. So yeah, it was this reality check around policing too, that like, even in something very, very obvious, like everybody looking at this, your audience will look at it. 9 out of 10 people will just immediately say, oh my God, this is the worst thing. This is terrible. But the sheriff's department, you know, doesn't care. They can do whatever they want. And that was a reality check for me and a lot of other people.
Yeah, and that video needed to be made. Obviously, that's something that could possibly save a life, to be honest. Someone who's in a bad mood, this detective, maybe someone stared at him wrong or said something wrong or something's going on in a relationship, and you make a one wrong move, he feels it's justified to shoot you. I mean, this could be something that maybe prevents someone from pulling the gun in the first place. So it's really good that you did that. I wanted really to paint the picture of how passionate you are and why you're on the show, because this is Passion in Pickleball. And AJ is one of the most passionate people I know. So now let's move forward. Fast forward, he started to get to know someone in his community who was in transition. So he knew this person before transition, through transition, now post transition, and obviously he's learned a lot. And this is before even talking about the issue of trans athletes. So what was it like to kind of watch someone transition and shift their gender expression and identity?
So for me, my interaction with them, I have a Discord channel now. And again, if any of your audience is interested in interacting with me more, or like my ideas around motorcycles or other things that I talk about, I encourage you to come check it out there. But at the time, the Discord was like 5 people. I mean, it was literally like me and my biggest fans, because I had like 3,000 subscribers tops. This is 2018 or whatever. And this person interacted with me a lot. And we would talk about cop things. They were in criminal justice. And so we were talking about issues. They really didn't like what that cop did to me. That was what actually brought them to me. And we talk about coincidences and chains of events as things kind of happen. I mean, it's just, I think back and it's very fascinating for me to kind of just line that stuff up. But yeah, they presented in a different way, and they were pretty young. They looked like, I mean, like they had just graduated high school when I met them. And then, by the time they had transitioned, they were in their early 20s. And I mean, I watched them go from, I start to struggle in school as I watched their family. They described a lot of how their family was they were very religious. And so they sent her to conversion therapy, and she talked about the horrors of that. And it was just like, wow, like, and like that her parents wouldn't, just respect rudimentary things about like her wanting to like seek care or talk about things. Like it wasn't even that she was pushing really, like the caricature is that the trans person is just pushing for these things really, really quickly. I mean, she was just asking for, please respect me. Like, please don't call me this. Don't make me go to torture camp, like these types of things. And so I watched as her parents then pulled away resources, and like she had to drop out of school, and then she started talking about doing forms of sex work, and like just the low slide of reality, where as your support network, as a human being, any human being, as your support network slowly disappears, if people choose to say, actually, I don't like that you want to be different. I don't like that you want to use a different name and you want me to call you that. And so I'm actually going to just stop support. Even though I'm your parent, I'm going to stop supporting you entirely. Like watching that reality and seeing what can happen was just like, it was devastating. I mean, I felt so bad, and I did what I could. I mean, there was a moment where, I bought her a handful of like Uber Eats meals, I mean, like little things like that at times, but like, yeah, like, and then realizing getting the care when she actually getting transitional surgery was super, super important to her. Listening to her, that was the first time, I remember being a guy. I remember 10 years ago watching two men kiss on a movie, like gave me funny feelings inside, like funny feelings in like kind of like an icky way. Like it was just like, the fact that two men like just the facial hair, I don't know. It just affected me. I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't bother me anymore. I don't give a shit anymore. I don't care anymore. Yeah, that when she talked about the medical process, that was a thing that for a long time I just like, again, it's because I make it about myself. I think about how I would feel, but listening to her talk about how like her penis was like this thing she hated, like it made her feel terrible. It made her feel terrible all the time, regardless. Like even if nobody else knew, it would never be enough, and like that visceral description, that complete clarity was like, oh yeah, of course there are people, of course you would like feel this strongly if this, and so that realization was like, okay, that's not me. I don't need to like understand it. I just need to understand that this is how other people sincerely feel at the depths of their core, the same way that I feel, about me. I am a man and I am very happy with my penis. Thanks. Like, anyway. So but like, yeah, that was really eye-opening for me. And because her life was so hard, and because, she struggled so much, it just felt unfair. And the more trans people I talked to, sadly, the more I realized that that's a really common experience, and that just more and more grew that like desire to do anything about it, even the smallest thing of like making a video is not that big a deal. Like, I get that other YouTube people are really afraid of losing subscribers and really afraid of I'm not that way. And that's kind of like, I have a full-time job, and I've always had a full-time job, and I have no real awesome plans for going full-time as a creator, because the reality is then you're in that world where I have to be afraid to say things for money. And I prefer to just say my mind and speak my mind, and stick up for the people around me that I care about. I actually recently I invited a trans person to come live with me for a little bit, because they were in another really abusive relationship, and so paid them to get them up here, gave them a bus ticket, like, because that to me, like, it's just having small kindnesses and helping each other out is kind of how we build that better world. Going back to the message of like, how do we change the world? We do it collectively. That's how you change it collectively. But collectively is individual decisions. Being a good person in small moments are what add that up to me. So yeah. Anyway, I've rambled for a while. Did I answer?
That's a perfect answer. And it's so kind of you to do things like that. Not like, I'm going to be very honest right now with a little bit about my background in my transition in the LGBT community, my experience within it. So when I first started transitioning, I was like, okay, I guess I should, kind of commit myself to what this is going to look like in the community. Now, I never really identified in that community, but I joined it. I joined a bunch of Facebook groups, I joined support groups, and I got kind of involved in that community. And because I'm confident, and I didn't care how I looked, and I honestly, I looked very weird. I was like this, mix of genders kind of in transition. I looked kind of freaky deaky. It was weird. And I didn't care. I still walked around like, you know what? I love myself. No matter what you think of me, I love myself, and I walked that way. I had that kind of, and I exuded that confidence in myself and that power, which kind of threw people off, because you would see someone that you think is a freak, you think that they should have insecurity and they shouldn't be confident. Well, I broke that rule. So when I was part of these groups, these Facebook groups, I stood out big time, and I was offering help and support. And I was like, if you need someone to talk to, reach out to me. Well, it wasn't too long before I got way overwhelmed. It was overwhelmingly negative and toxic, and a lot of people who were constantly on defense because of who they were then turned out to be on the offense in the community, because it was like their way of expressing they're just their uncomfort with how they constantly live this defense mode, and then they ended up putting it on other people because they're in that community. So where else can they express that? And a lot of people in general, not just this community, but don't have a good emotional grounding or a healthy way to express your emotions. Well, in this community, with a lot of people who are experiencing a lot of negativity, being put down, resources being taken away, parents kicking them out, stuff like that, the energy there is not so lovely. It's not so lovely. And it wasn't long before I had to be like, I'm cutting this out of my life. I had multiple, I would say, I think it was 4 people who I would be speaking to who would tell me they're about to end their life right now. And I had to call police and say, I don't know where they are. Here's their Facebook. Well, then you got to call the police in that area. I'm like, I don't know where it is. Help me. And it was like,
do you care? Do you care that someone's going to die? Because I care. Yeah.
Right. And this is all while I'm trying to figure my life out, find myself, my comfort in my own skin, trying to help people just stay alive long enough to get to the point where I am now, where I love my life and I'm not worried about that stuff. Even though I have it around me, I've got this impenetrable barrier of support and love surrounding me. It takes a while to get there. And I encourage anyone who's going through a transition and is experiencing the cutoff of the resources and the love and the friendships and the people turning their back and you not knowing where to turn, hang in there. It's worth it. I'm like holding back tears because it's so tough to watch people this much in pain that they want to end it all before it gets good. One lady, it was happening, and I called the cops and I figured it out. I did the thing, and she was freaking out. She said, the cops came and screw you for doing that to me. It's like just the mental stress that people are under going through this. So it's part of So it's why I got out of that community, because it was too much for me to handle. And it's why right now I'm stepping up with the strength that I do to share my story, to team up with people like AJ, to go, come on, we got to do something about this individually, as a group, however we can do it, we got to do it. And it's going to take people who might not understand. In fact, let me put it this way: I don't understand it. I don't understand. I just know who I am. I can't explain to you why I am how I am. It's been like this since I was born. That's all I can tell you. I don't understand it, and I don't need you to. All I need from people like AJ is to say, I love you anyways. He did that. He did that with me, and he created an amazing video. And together, we are making some positive impacts. And it's beautiful when you watch the comment thread in the video that he made. There are people who are like, I just don't get it, but I'm open. And those spark some interesting conversations where someone says, well, here's what I think. And someone says, well, here's my experience. Here's what I've gone through. And they go, well, that's interesting. I didn't know that. It's nice to learn some things that can open your mind. So, what was it like putting that video together, AJ? Like, that was a big thing for me. You're dealing with me. I'm emotional. I'm like, this is all happening. I'm literally wearing the t-shirt from the event that sparked all this. That's why I'm wearing it purposefully. It was at the US Open, where a movement on Twitter attacked me viciously on their Twitter movement, and it went semi-viral. Like, there was some, I don't know, 500,000 retweets, and the comments threads were insane and very toxic and negative and nasty. And because of it, though, I connected with you and we made this video. What was that like? What was that like for you?
So I just kind of walked into it like very fresh, like, what is happening? And I read it and I'm like, okay, there's a small tournament for this pickleball sport that, again, it's pickleball. I just don't take it that seriously. There's a dodgeball, ESPN. It's an ESPN the Ocho type of sport is how I consider it, right? It's a sport. It's fine. It looks fun. And I'm glad make anything a sport. I don't care. But it's not like the major sports. And I was like, there's not a lot of money going into this thing yet. You were talking about how, okay, people are now starting to invest in, people want to make it a thing. It's like, okay, this is not a big deal. What is happening? And then I look at the Twitter account, and yeah, it's this, I go look at who it is. It's this, I'm not going to say their name. They don't deserve recognition. But what I realize is their whole framing is it's around female, like women's issues. And as I'm chroming through, I'm like, okay, women's issues, cool. So the women's issues, and then they're extending, and now they're mad about trans people. Okay, whatever. Well, let me go look at their core values. Abortion isn't mentioned one time. And that was extremely suspect to me, because I mean, at a fundamental level, women who are pregnant probably can't participate in sports. And so if you are a women's sporting program, you should at least have a position on the concept of abortion in America. To me, like, that's just very obvious. And so I made it very clear that this is just people who like want to put a front in front of hating trans people. And it's just like coming up with an excuse. And it was a handful of women who were athletes who said that they lost to trans women and they were mad, or they felt unsafe. And there was just all these claims about like psychological trauma that women get when participating in sports with men. I mean, it was just like, as someone who, I consider myself a very scientific and skeptical person, the thing you talked about being able to kind of like approach an idea, I think it is like a sign of high maturity intelligence to be able to entertain someone else's idea fully, to take it into yourself, to think, okay, if that was my idea, how would I implement this best? What would the problems be here? What would the advantages be here? Like, that's like strong critical thinking skills, because then from there, you can tear it apart and be like, well, this is where it doesn't work, and that's where it doesn't work. And to me, that's why I think my videos are really good, and why my motorcycle concept is more advanced than a lot of places, is because I take it so much farther than the fundamentals of just, operating the controls and what your dad told you of, like, slow down, But anyway, so seeing that you were just getting torn apart by these people, and then going back and looking, and then watching how the thing that you did that was so unique to me was that you are uniquely, as a trans person, capable of like seeing yourself, and you have comfort in yourself. And I think you're a beautiful woman. But if you told me that you had body issues, and that you told me that you didn't think you look good at all, I wouldn't be surprised, because I've met so many beautiful trans women. My girlfriend's trans. She's gorgeous, and she has feelings. Like, she just doesn't, like, many days she's just like, I look like shit. And I'm just like, what are you fucking talking about? You're gorgeous. Anyway, so But that's just like the reality of being trans, is this physical dysmorphia. But you recorded yourself all the way through that, like the ugly duckling phase. That was something I have never, ever seen before. I know trans people, the one that I met, like she stopped looking at photos of herself entirely prior. Like so many trans people want that version of them to just disappear off the internet, because like that's not who they are. That's just happened to be like how they were born, in the same way that some people are born and they just like are really big and they weigh a lot when they're kids. And then, or I had acne and stuff. Like I wasn't super muscular or anything as a kid. Like I had a lot of body issues, but then over time we transform. Over time we get access to more resources. Over time we finally get the like moment to go be like, what is nutrition? How do I stop? Like, how do I actually lose weight and like become healthy? You know, you start to care. But yeah, so seeing you do that was just that gave me this idea to be like, I can show people what it's like to have to live that life, to want to say, I'm here, but I actually want to be here, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to do what it takes. And what does that? What is the distance between there, and what does it look like? And I was able to show that while you very emotionally on Facebook. I mean, you bored your soul into the camera I mean, if you were like, this is so many people, and I looked at it as somebody who had almost 40 million views on stuff last year, and I saw 1,000, 1,500, 20,000 views, and I said, that's an amount of views. It's not zero, you know. But you were like, you were effectively bearing it to nobody, and I was like, this is too important. This is a perfect story to tell, and this is the cost of this psychosis that we are having. This is the cost of people just demonizing queer people for no reason, just because they want an excuse to divert from the failures of our society, the failures to keep people healthy, the failures to like of people living in poverty, not having. I live in Seattle. I have all my coworkers make over $100,000. Nobody can buy a home. Nobody can buy a home. Housing is totally screwed in this country. Anyway, so this is what politicians are doing. Is I just saw this. Nope, trans people are the problem. Look here. Look, guys. And It's so easy to get. Especially, there's a lot of men who I feel like probably haven't played a lot of athletics, to be honest. I just don't think they're probably athletes themselves. I think there are a lot of people who watch and are very into the betting and the winning and the losing and all of that aspect, but they're not athletes themselves, which is why they don't care about trans athletes, because they don't care about athletes, period. If an NFL athlete gets CTE and kills themselves and their family, oh, well, like they're going to watch the Super Bowl the next day and they're not going to really think about it. I stopped watching football basically entirely because I'm so upset by CTE, because it is so crushing to me that I'm watching people get brain damage is what it feels like. So you doing that was the reason. You bearing your soul and demonstrating all that was like, I have to show this. And that's why I stress so much about it, because you were the one that was caught in the middle. And I was like, if I screw this up, I'm like adding to the problem for this woman. And like, that was not acceptable to me. So it had to be something you liked, that you felt okay with. And you gave me a lot of, you basically let me do whatever I want, which I appreciate. And I am fortunate enough that I feel like I'm a good enough creator at this point. The 7 years I spent prior to this made me able to do a decent job. So yeah, I hope people like it. It's called, it's basically just, it's called Why Transgender Women Belong in Women's Sports. And yeah, it's a really good video. I hope you watch it. But yeah.
It is. You should definitely watch it. Again, the time and energy you put into it shows. You portrayed me in a very raw but nice way. I mean, I would like to hope that I don't have a negative kind of impact on people just because I exist. But you really, you took what I have done, these live videos. My biggest live video had, I think it was 30,000 views. And that was mind blowing to me. And you're like, yes, but more people need to see it,
Yeah.
more than that need to see it. So it was really nice. And I guess, my biggest question is, what did you learn about me, about the whole transgender athlete thing? Because obviously there was a lot of discussion within the video, within the comment thread, within meeting me, I'm sure you you definitely did some research and you put together a lot of information on your video. So what are some of the biggest things that you learned and took away from this?
So the thing I've learned, and this came later, the thing I had to figure out through the video is I had to figure out my position on trans women in sports. To tell you the truth, I hadn't thought much about it. I don't think about winning and losing a lot. Again, being somebody who has played sports all my life, I've lost an amount of games I can't count, and I've won an amount of games I can't count. It doesn't matter. So that was trying to frame that to people and trying to explain that to people was really hard. And like I really had to like think about like, why do I not care about winning and losing? Like, what is important to me? And it's like, oh, I play sports because I want to stay in shape and I enjoy them. And I hate working. I hate running. I hate running on a treadmill. I find that to be extremely boring. And I just want to be active. I want to do something that I want to gamify my exercise. And so that is why I still continue to play sports. Like it is not to dominate other people. It isn't to I'm not making side bets on my recreational stuff. You know, I mean, we try hard. The competition for me is about the challenge. It is about having a challenge and trying to overcome that challenge, right? Like using your skills, you know, trying new things. And then, you know, anyway, so, but really, I think the most important thing for people to understand about trans women and women's sports and people who do not like trans women to be in women's sports, at the core, it's not about trans women at all. It's about people that do not like women and do not think much of women. They think women are inferior at sports. They think women are just at everything. I mean, they think women's brains don't work as good as men. Like it's actually crazy to see the way people describe it, because they'll say extremely broad things like you know, putting trans women in women's sports is unsafe. And it's like, what sport are you talking about? You're talking about golf? Like golf is like, I'm pretty sure it's fine, man. Like, I'm pretty sure we're going to be okay. Like that's like but their brains aren't working, right? Because they're thinking about, they go to like they use these very specific, extremely precise situations like MMA or whatever that they feel like are just dominant. But like sport is everything. Sport is me going out and just kicking the soccer ball, like calling up some friends and like kicking a soccer ball down the street. You know what I mean? Because we just want to get together and have a good time on a weekend. That's what I consider sport. So like, definitely, I would encourage your audience as you're thinking about your own, how you feel about trans women. Like, think about why do you think trans women are just better and can never compete? The other thing I realized is that I had, and it's a very good example I put in the video, is that I was a hurdler when in track. I was really, really good. I went to state in the hurdles. And when I did the hurdles, one of the funny things was that I got to the very end. I was so fast. I was such a great sprinter. But as I lined up against the other 7 hurdlers in the state, they were all 6 feet. And I'm like 5'8". I mean, 5'8 and a quarter. Like when I wake up in the morning, you know, the back's all stretched out. And I lost because of that. And like, that's an example of like height has always been a thing for me in every sport I've done. Basketball, track, soccer, football. Height always comes up. And that has nothing to do with men or women. That is just a biological feature. And so again, thinking about deconstructing sports more into talking about like, okay, well, why would a man have an advantage here? Oh, it's because all of our sports are designed to give tall people an advantage. Why? Why does my hurdle need to be 42 inches? Why does the men's hurdle need to be 42 inches? Why can't it be 60% of our height? You know, if it was 60% of our height, I bet it would have beat all those guys. I mean, like, what? It's thinking, again, deconstructing sports, thinking about it more specifically, but that's something you need to be an athlete in order to care about in the first place. And again, why so many of these people making these arguments don't really care. They're not interested in that. They just want to dismiss it all.
Yeah, we all like an easy target to release our anger of the day. Life isn't easy. We get curveballs, and why not find an easy target other than our family to just blah on? It seems easy. But the biggest thing here, well, there's a bunch of different aspects of this that are really interesting to me, especially because I've gone through it. I'll be very honest. Before my transition, I lived at the gym. I was doing a lot of workouts, and I owned a landscaping company, lifting brick and installing brick waterfalls and driveways and stuff. I was 220 pounds. Okay. I am 160 pounds now. So before the transition, I could do about 75 to 100 push-ups straight. Okay. About 6 months into hormone replacement therapy, I could do just over 10. Now this day, so I was just doing this like cardio yoga thing, and they got us down doing diamond push-ups. I'm on my knees doing these push-ups. I did 6. It's hormones. It's not about, a lot of people say, well, you went through male puberty, so you've got all this muscle and you got the skeletal structure and the lungs and stuff. No, that doesn't affect it. Yeah. I cannot, as hard as I try, do more than 10 push-ups. Diamond push-ups, give me a break. On my knees, can't even do over 6. So, I mean, that is just my experience. Whether I have an opinion or not doesn't really matter. I'm just sharing what I'm going through, and I'm not lying about that. That really is what's happening when 6 months before transitioning, I could do 75 to 100 push ups straight. That's a big, significant change. So,
I mean,
that
it's the
being,
working out though. The difference isn't that you were a man, it's that you worked out a lot. You worked out consistently. Like if you want to be good
I'm an
at
athlete
an
right
athlete,
now.
you're
So,
doing it. And
I'm very active right now. I'm
yeah,
not exactly going and lifting dumbbells and barbells and doing stuff like this or anything, but I am very active, and I never, took enough time off for muscles to atrophy that much. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So,
The other thing too is game sense. This is the other frustrating thing that people who do not play sports do not understand. I'm better at soccer because I've played my entire life. I understand the game extremely well. I know where everybody is supposed to be. I know where every position is supposed to be. I play the goalie. I play the most important position, the least replaceable position, the quarterback. I think of it as the quarterback. I'm guiding, I'm yelling at people, I'm telling them what to do. That is not a physical thing. That is just I have done this for 30 years. And like, yeah, it by oversimplifying down to, oh, you went through male puberty, therefore you are always better. It's so ignorant. I can't argue with those people because like that is not an honest conversation. That is an extremely ignorant small ball conversation.
well, it's just interesting that everyone assumes that because of male puberty, you all of a sudden have forever advantages. I can't tell you how many women I've played against who hit way harder than me, or were way faster than me, or were way taller than me. Here's something really cool. Back in Ottawa, I was one of the taller females on the court. Here in Minnesota, I am not. There are tons of tall women in this area who are much taller than me, stronger, faster than me. So then the question is, what do we do with them? Do we, you want me to play with the men? Should they play with the men too? They're stronger, faster. Is it really about advantages? Is that really what it's about? Or is it more that you just don't agree with my existence and you don't want to see me? You want me off into the corner so you don't have to even think about me.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
I
what,
would
what,
love to
what,
see people stop caring so much about who wins and loses. And I would and hide behind this concept of it's unfair. It's unfair is it's such a subjective statement anyway. I would love to see like handicaps in games. Like I'm more interested in that. In my soccer games, when we go up by 3, the other team just gets another person until it's back to 2. Like that seems like a really cool way to keep the game engaging for everybody and kind of minimize these physical differences or like one team just being better. You can make the game more fun and competitive to watch for everybody if you look at it past what individual people are on each team. But again, that's to me, that's about capitalism. That's about people being taught that like who wins and loses is extremely important. It's in fact the most important thing. The person who can lift the heaviest thing and put it down in the world is something that we all need to know for some reason. I have no idea why that's like the person with who can shot put up an 8-pound ball the farthest is like extremely important. It's just, anyway.
Yeah. Well, comments are coming in and you can see it. You can see how many people don't get it. Someone just said sports are segregated for good reasons. You meeting some girl that hits less hard than you is not an argument. Why not? Why to you does that like what do you say to, someone says you're not always better, only in 96% of cases. Says who? What are you talking about?
I mean, what's the famous about stats just being made up on the spot? I don't listen to people like that. I just don't. Those people are silly. I appreciate their engagement though. I like that they increase my YouTube viewership. I love that those people, because they comment, other people that feel exactly the way they do, they get my shorts just jammed into their feed. That is why I got 40 million views. And that's why I talk about these things too. That's why I'm not afraid to talk about these things, because all of these people have to engage on it. They know that what they're like, they know that they need to be the ones convincing people because they're not factually correct. Like they don't have the facts on their side. They have to be trying to winning rhetorical arguments by just making things up. So yeah, they're used to doing it on this platform. I like to kind of be above it. I like to think about the core of the issue. I would love to see more integrated sports. That's what I would love to see, more men and women playing together. I think that kind of eliminates a lot of this. I love playing co-ed sports. I think it's super fun. I've noticed that a lot of the women I play with, they haven't played as long. So it gives me an opportunity to help coach them up, help teach them the game, give them a nice, fun way into the community so they feel good. Like I find that unfortunately in co-ed sports, there's a lot of men who get more competitive. Like oddly enough, and you play co-ed sports. Do you ever feel like the men in co-ed sports sometimes get like if they get beat by a girl, we call it ponytail fever. My girlfriend called it. So we went racing. My girlfriend's a motorcycle racer. Small tangent here. And when we were racing, she was getting followed by a coach. She passes someone, and the guy like really tries to get on her and starts to make some kind of dangerous moves. And at the end, the coach came after, and he was like, "Oh yeah, you gave someone ponytail fever because they see that ponytail coming out the back, and suddenly they can't lose to a girl. It like triggers that ego inside of them. Like it's a lot of men. It's a lot of men with ego. They can't put their own ego aside. Anyway, so I would love to see that. Let's just do it all together. Let's stop separating people into like single individuals. I think that single individual thing, that's the problem. I think that that's society like training us to don't think collectively. Don't think of what's best for all of us. Think of what's best for you. Because if you're doing what's best for you, that's probably what's best for society, right? No. So yeah. I want to see sports encourage positive behaviors, the things that we want people to be doing. Teamwork. I want people to be good operating on a team. I want people to be kind. I want people to have mistakes. I want people to be okay with losing. That's the other problem I see. There's a lot of people that are just not okay with losing. Like they just can't. I don't know. I don't feel that. I've lost 1,000,000 times. I've won 1,000,000 times. So a lot of people just need to lose more and like move on with life. It's okay.
Yeah. No. And it's funny. Most of the people who make these comments, like you said, they don't even play sports. A lot of them, honestly, it's about 95, maybe 98% men who make these comments, which is very interesting to me. Very interesting.
Yeah.
And I have competed now for about 3 years and many, many tournaments. Not once has there ever been a confrontation. Not once. In fact, many of the women who I've competed against, who then later found out my story or even knew my story before then, now because of the whole event that, went public and publicly outed me, have messaged me and said, I just found out about you. And I just want to say I support you. I've got your back and, you're always welcome. I'd play with you or against you any day of the week. I get messages like that a lot. And, a lot of these comments are like, if they just walked off the court, people would stop. They would stop entertaining this. No, that's not what's happening. It's not even close to what's happening. So I just hope people come onto stuff like this or watch a video with an open mind to think, there's got to be a reason why so many people are supporting me and this kind of, I don't want to call it a movement, but, trans athletes. So, I mean, it seems like it's a tough conversation, but I think it really gets very simple when you just understand that trans women are women.
Yeah, to your point, my girlfriend who races, so she races in the open class, which means men and women can do it. She does that specifically. She doesn't do it because she feels like that's where she requires. She does it because she just doesn't want anybody to be a problem. You know what I mean? She does it because she just doesn't want to have to deal with those men who might exist there. Again, motorcycles, very male-dominated sport. Someone might feel bad. But you know what? So many women have invited her to come they want her to come do the other races because there aren't that many female racers. So they need more participation. So yeah, she has gotten nothing but a warm welcome. And that is an extremely ironic dichotomy that I hope people pay more attention to.
Yeah, big time. It's funny because I'm very welcomed in all the communities that I'm in. But when I go online and I see certain comments and stuff, it's like, where's this coming from? Because I don't see it in person ever. But anyways, we are coming up on the end of the episode. So I want to ask you two things. First thing, before I ask you how people can get in touch with you, is any last messages that can hopefully, touch somebody who's watching and maybe doesn't agree or maybe does agree and could use some support. Any last final words from you, AJ?
Yeah. Life is wild. Like I feel really strongly what I thought was great. And again, why where I got that kind of critical thinking, where I became the person that was like taking things and could like hold them and really like empathize with other people, was because I was wrong about a couple things when I was younger. And it was really embarrassing. Like I remember feeling really strongly about like Apple computers just being the worst things in the world and being a waste of time and money. Like when I was like 17, 18, when I didn't have a lot of time and money and I never used them. And then I worked at Best Buy and then I played with one. And now I use one every day, both for work and for my own YouTube work. Like, so like, I don't like to be wrong. I just want to be right. Like at the end of the day, I want to be telling people the truth. And I want people to look at me as somebody who is an honest and who does not project any lies. I'm not trying to be anybody I'm not. So like, if you want to also, if you say truth is important to you, like you kind of have to learn to think through other people's positions. And empathy is important. Empathy is really maybe the most important thing. And yeah,
you can learn a lot when you put yourself in someone's shoes. Just consider what it would be like if you were in my shoes or someone else's shoes who's experiencing all this downfall because of their existence. Just consider, what would it be like? What would you think like? What would you do? But yes, I digress. How can people find you, AJ? Obviously, you've given a couple tidbits, but give them the whole shebang of how they can find you.
Squid Tips. Look for Squid Tips. It's all one word. You can find me. My YouTube channel is the best way to find me. I do have an Instagram and a TikTok and an OnlyFans, but my most important thing is YouTube. That's all I really care about. Everything is to get you to YouTube because that's where I can do the good videos.
And I highly recommend it. Guys, check him out. AJ's amazing. All his video content's amazing. His motorcycles, his ally videos, and just when he opens his mouth, everyone's like, wow, he's got something cool to say. He's very expressive and he's super cool. We love AJ. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank
you rock.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
And with that, this show can also be heard on the Spanglish Radio Network. Please check out SpanglishWorld.ca for all news and programming. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, live it.